Well, welcome back. It's the same day, new chapter. I just went and checked Twitch, and it looks like it did record. It looks like my voice came out not robot-y, so that's cool. Eventually, I'll load these up onto YouTube, which is, I think, where most of my four listeners are listening, and I'm so grateful. Oh my gosh, Virginia, Anthony, Dave, maybe one more person, J9. And I just think you're just the greatest. I am so happy because when I'm reading this, I just imagine reading to you in a room, and it makes me feel very cozy here at the Phoenix Quill Tavern. Now, imagine this. Eventually, I'm going to learn how to green screen out my background, so then it'll just look like I'm sitting here in this tavern that's behind me. It's just so cool. At the moment, though, this is where I am. But this is where I want us all to be, in this cozy tavern with the firelight and the stained glass windows and the little fairy dust motes hanging in the air. And we will have whatever beverages please us. What do I want right now? Some kind of like cranberry juice, spritzer maybe, with like cranberry juice, grapefruit. I like kind of tart things, and I like really sweet things. Anyway, I'm drinking water out of a jade goblet now because it looks appropriately fairy-like. Madonna in goblets. Okay, so in the last chapter, which you just heard probably, Anna is leaving Breaker House, driven out by Gideon's cruelty, but she just met a new friend, Nyx the Nightwalker, Queen of the Volwoad, who really likes her. She really wants to be her friend and eat grilled cheese sandwiches and read books with her, but she has duties. She's an ancient queen of the gentry, and she wants to kidnap Anna's best friend and take him as her lover forever and ever, so she feels kind of bad about that. She's gonna have to figure that out, you know. She's not used to having so many emotions. Gentry are not usually very emotionally complicated because they got bored with that a long time ago. I think they're still capable of it. It's just like ennui is the prevailing feeling. But Nyx is more complex than some, and she's getting more complex as she ages in wisdom and glory. Anyway, we're at chapter 6, Banquet of the Breaker House Condemned. This is the big dinner chapter scene. Ooh, I loved it. Loved writing it. Banquet of the Breaker House Condemned. Dinner was 12 courses. It began promptly at 8, took 3 hours to complete, tasted incomprehensibly delicious, and was exactly how Eliot imagined the second hell to be, where you ate your fill but felt hollow forever. He would paint his impressions of the night, he decided, in a triptych, Banquet of the Breaker House Condemned. The finished work sprang before his mind's eye sometime during the third course, sweetbreads caramelized to a delicate crunch, served on risotto, punctuated with wild mushrooms and accompanied by claret, mercifully obliterating most of Eliot's reality with its exhaustive, if not yet actualized, detail. For the next 2 hours, Eliot leisurely examined the triptych in the privacy of his mind. First panel, the Breaker House Condemned. Countess Lupe Valeska, Chas Mallister, and father and daughter Mannering all gorge themselves on a sumptuous feast. The bones and husks and pits and skins of all they have eaten are heaped about their feet, mooring the damned gourmands to the floor. Second panel, self-portrait of the artist. Dead. He has attempted a work too lofty for his talents. Demons from the 7 hells arrive to cart the artist away to their kitchens, where he will become the next meal for the damned of panel 1. In some languages and cultures elsewhere on the Federation Islands, and even in a few places on the mainland, the 7 hells were translated as 7 heavens, the demons functioning as angels or gods. But Eliot would save that concept for a sister triptych someday when he was in a better mood. The expression on the dead artist's face is one of relief. This corpse-to-kitchen stage of hell indicates absolution. Once the artist is consumed by the damned, shat out, flushed into the sewers of hell, that is the third hell, and broken down to his component bits by fiend larvae, he stands a chance at rebirth. Third and final panel, rebirth. It begins in Bana, the Bone Kingdom, where goblins dwell. Bana, that band of darkness separating the 7 hells from Aeth, the world of mortals. Between Bana and Aeth there shimmers the thinnest, most delicate veil, a whole other world, the Valwold where gentry live, or dream they live, in an unspooling chaos of pyretic reverie, senseless and without surcease. An army of fiend larvae, now bearing the artist's excreted soul piecemeal upon their maggoty backs. How do I sketch a soul excreted? Eliot pondered. Crawl up a bone ladder, leaving the Bone Kingdom, passing through the rainbow-spangled Valwold, and climbing higher still, right up through a house-shaped portal into Eighth. There, a pregnant woman, wearing the careworn face of Eliot's own mother, sleeps fitfully on her bare mattress, waiting to receive her baby's harrowed soul back into her womb. His vision lasted just as long as dinner did, releasing him in time for the port and cigars. Everyone was still seated. The Countess was toying with her dessert cheeses. Desdemona was leaning over her father's humidor, inspecting each cigar with the tips of her fingers. Finally, selecting the one she liked, she expertly clipped the tip and lit it up. But before she began puffing on it, she waited, spinning the cigar like a sorcerer's wand, holding it this way and that, until the orange smolder achieved a color that pleased her. At none of these stages did H.H. attempt to stop her, but kept up a scornful commentary about new-century women that made Desdemona laugh, dangerously. She sucked in her cheeks, and struck a pose, cigar in hand, glass of port in the other, and wondered aloud if Gideon might consent to sculpt her thus, once he had recovered from his sulks and come back downstairs. At that point, the right side of Eliot's face began to prickle. He turned his head, seeking the source of the sensation. Chaz's limpid gaze was fixed upon him. His expression was determined, intent, as if by staring hard enough he might will Eliot's flesh and bone as flat as canvas, and through its stretched surface glimpse the nascent triptych buried in his mind like a pentimento. Eliot raised his eyebrows in alarm. "It isn't finished yet," he protested. He spoke as one waking from a dream, but all Chaz said in reply was, "Port, Professor?" Eliot glanced down at the proffered decanter, bemused. "Do I like port?" "What's not to like? It's like drinking dessert. This one is quite fortifying," Chaz promised in a coaxing voice, "like raspberries and chocolate with just a hint of jammy black plum." "I generally prefer to eat my fruit and chocolate plain." "Well, you needn't drink it then, but best to fill your glass, yes, exactly, no more than a third, and pass the decanter clockwise. The Countess is too polite to grab for it, you know, but by the lipstick on her teeth, I'd say she's eating her agitation. There, now just hold it in your hand a while," Chaz suggested, "for a kind of cryptic coloration." Cryptic coloration, Eliot knew, could be a predation strategy as much as an anti-predator adaptation. He didn't know if Chaz, like Gideon, was subtly advising him to show a little more fang, for his own good. Whatever Chaz's intentions, Eliot took the glass and nodded his thanks. Chaz smiled at him, opened his mouth on some last word, some piece of advice about blending in, but hesitated instead, searching Eliot's face again briefly but just as intently, even wistfully. Perhaps he was hoping for another glimpse of Eliot's invisible triptych. Then he shook his head, dropped a droll wink, and turned back to Desdemona, demanding a puff off her cigar. A half hour of that particular hell, the fifth hell, Eliot thought, where everyone chain smokes cheroots until you can't see your hand in front of your face for the smoke, and he was herded into the gleaming music room, where the coffered ceiling shone like a silver jewelry box. Desdemona laughingly led him to a couch that she thought might bear his weight. It was tucked near the western-facing windows, which opened onto a projecting hemicycle porch overlooking the fragrant darkness of the tapestry beds. Eliot leaned forward, nose to the open windows, grateful for fresh air. He thought that the Maid Nixie must smell like this, up close, night-blooming flowers and a night-licked sea. A swift glance at his watch. 20 till midnight. He bent his head and began rough sketching out his triptych, his fingers trembling. Everything trembling. He was still sketching when the peripatetic daughter of the house returned to that side of the room to peek over his shoulder. Oh, are you doodling, dear thing? Do show. Eliot hastily stuffed his notebook and charcoal stick away. He offered Desdemona a shy smile, the one his ma claimed was hell on the heart, kid, and which had inspired not a few students to shove unsigned love letters under his office door. When it's ready, Miss Mannering, he promised, perjuring himself, you shall be the first to see it, but I shan't be able to do anything concrete with the idea for a good long while. After all, I'm here to paint your picture, not indulge my idle fantasies. Oh, Desdemona's straight razor smile softened for him. That's just a commission, a crowd pleaser to pay for the rent. She spoke confidently, as though she knew anything about paying rent. Bang me out an Eloise, slap my face on it to please the papers, then start the next. I want you to be inspired here. I want to buy whatever piece you paint at Breaker House. In fact, I claim it right now. Name your price, Professor, but before we tell anyone about our little arrangement. She lowered her voice, glancing across the room at Chaz, who scowled back with vexed misgiving. I'll host a great unveiling for it and drive Chaz wild with jealousy that the work is already spoken for. You are very generous, Miss Mannering, said Eliot, smiling again, vowing silently to all the horned lords that he would never, ever show his triptych in public while he was yet living. Presently, Desdemona drifted elsewhere. 5 minutes till midnight. H. had disappeared into his library. Chaz, after much teasing by Desdemona and insisting by the Countess, was taking his seat at the harp. The Countess situated herself at the baby grand, ready to accompany him. Desdemona loitered between them, ready to turn pages and demand they play her favorite pieces. When Impsy Nocturne in C-sharp minor, opus 12, began, Eliot slipped free of them and left the music room. 4 minutes till midnight. He had an appointment to keep. At the far end of the great hall, as if just emerging from the red and gold dining room, a maid of Breaker House held her hurricane lamp aloft. The fiery glass globe bled its light onto her face, throwing the strange markings there into stark relief. It made of her a lighthouse, of Eliot a storm-tossed ship, sailing too close to the cliffs at night. Eliot's whole body stopped when he saw her. His heart stuttered, his muscles flooded with too much glowing feeling to function, his breath jammed in his lungs. He stared, and he did not wonder why the great hall was suddenly so dark, or why she was the only light. Nixie, and her cap was off and her hair was down. It did not fall in waves, he observed, but braids, 100 braids, more blue than black, he saw, and a phosphorescent blue at that, snaking all the way down her back. She beckoned to him, her left arm swooping in stately ritual. She might have been a horseshoe magnet and he a pillar of iron, for Eliot didn't remember his feet touching the floor, didn't remember moving, didn't remember anything but a rushing wind tunnel, darkness turning to light as his body flew across the echoing marble hall to her. And then, the bells. That's the end of chapter 6 of Darkbreakers. Next time, chapter 7, Piercing the Veil. We get little shenanigans, perhaps, down in the veil between worlds. Eliot and Nixie sitting in a tree. Anyway, I love them. I'm so happy to read this to you. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you soon. I will also be posting somewhere in Twitchlandia on my page a new schedule for the coming 2 months. I have to record several audiobooks, so I will not be here at my regularly scheduled time. I will still make an attempt over weekends to record something and get it up to keep the momentum going, because I do want to keep a sort of commitment anyway. Also, we have some fun things coming up. In March, we'll have a night where Carlos and I do a new show called Fiction Impossible. Well, we'll talk about short genre work in magazines, upcoming books we're looking forward to, games and analysis, and at the next one, at our first one, Fiction Impossible, we will be featuring Cassandra Kaw, wonderful horror writer and narrative designer for games. So we just adore Cass. They're a good friend of ours, and we are so looking forward to having them as our guest. So thank you so much, and we hope to see you soon. I'll post that schedule in several places: csccooney.com, Substack, CSC Cooney, Instagram probably at CSC Cooney, probably Blue Sky at CSC Cooney, Facebook, blah 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 blah. You understand. And also, as ever, Darkbreakers is on sale, hardcover and softcover from Mythic Delirium or wherever books are sold. And feel free to buy a copy for yourself, for your friends. Eventually, I think I will be making an official audiobook of Darkbreakers. I probably will have to crowdfund for that. So please tell your friends if you're liking what you see so far. Give them little snippets or whatever, or just share the YouTube or the Twitch channel. We'll just build this thing up, see if people are interested. Okay, thank you so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful week.